4 spicy sprints, 5 power-up banners, 1 crazy climb, and a whole new point system. Let me give you the inside line for Race 2, Season 1 of ZRL. It's all kicking off on the Sugar Cookie route. Stage 2 is a points race, and we're doing it on the Sugar Cookie route, which is 39.2 kilometers, so it's the longest race of the season. It's got 260 meters of elevation, and it starts us off with 4 sprints on the kind of flat and rolling areas of the Southern Coastal Road. Now, in a points race, all of your team members accumulate points during the race, and then they all get added up to make a team points total at the end, and then the team with the most points wins and gets 20 points towards the league. This Recon is sponsored by Level Velo CC, suppliers of all manner of cycling clothing. I received my kit this week and it is honestly the business. It is the best cycling clothing I have ever worn by a country mile. It's so amazing feel. The fit is just perfect and I just feel like a pro when I ride. Get yourself over to Level Velo CC website and check it out. Right, so the changes in the point system. Essentially, there's been a big move away from a focus on FTS, which is fastest through the segment, to FAL, which is first across the line. Now, in sprints, and hill climbs, though there's no hill climb segments in this race, the first across the line points go to the rider who gets the banner first. Doesn't matter how fast they go through the segment, it's just the person to get to that banner first who gets the 20 points. The third person to get to the banner gets 18 points, and so on and so forth until the 20th person gets 1 point. And it doesn't matter if they're 2 seconds behind or 2 minutes behind. And the second type of points that you can get is fastest through the segment. These are really being nerfed. Person who goes through the sprint segment, so from the green flashing light thing by the side and the line on the road to the banner, the amount of time, it doesn't matter where you cross the line. You could be 8th, 20th, 50th even. If you do that segment the fastest, then you get the fastest through the segment points. But now only 5 riders will receive those points. 10 for first, 8 for second, 6 for third, 4 for fourth, and 2 for fifth. And the other type of points that you can get are awarded at the very finish line. Now, the finish line points are now going to be decided by how many riders are in the race. So if there's 59 riders in the race, you'll get 59 points if you come first, 58 for coming second. Now, because they want to also reward those who come first a little bit more, there are also podium bonus points. So first place gets 10, second place gets 8, 6, 4, 2 again. And those can, although it won't be shown this way and they won't be called this, that you can see that the total that's available on the finish line is the summation of the fin points and the podium bonus points. Now, traditionally, sprints have generally been both FAL and FTS, both available on all sprints. However, this week it's not the case, so sprints are either first across the line or FTS, and it's crucial that you know which ones are which, so you know how to position yourself as you attack those banners. So the first, third and fourth sprints are FAL only, so they will have more points attached to them. The second one is FTS only. I've done you some lovely course notes which are available to download from the Level Velo CC website. The link will be attached below and you can go and download it, print it off if you like, have it by your bike so you know where the segments start and finish and you know which points you'll be going for each sprint. Because there's so many points on offer on the first 4 sprints, we're going to have a deep dive look at each one of those sprints. It's also where breaks tend to happen. People will use it as a point of attack, and it's really where a points race is decided in the point segment. My co-host for In the Drops also did a very successful points race here just a little while ago, so we're going to have a look at the footage from his race. The first sprint is the Stoneway Sprint, and it ends at 8.2. Now I've put here that it starts at 7.8, but that doesn't matter because it's a first across the line sprint only. So you'll only get scored based on your position as you cross the banner. So let's have a look at Nathan's sprint now. It actually comes after a little bit of a bump. From about 7.2, 7.3, it starts to rise up. It only goes up to about 2-3%, but it does go on for quite a while. At about 7.9, it flattens out, and then it's a full-on sprint. You will have an aero from the jungle gate, so hit that as you're approaching the top of that bump, and then give it everything you've got to maximize your points on the line. The second sprint is the Acropolis sprint. Now, there's not many points on offer here. Only 5 riders will score them, and a maximum of 10 points. So it's a low reward, high risk to go for these points, but it also is quite a good one if you know what you're doing, though quite energy sapping. It's a long old sprint at 500 meters. It starts at 10.3 and it finishes at 10.8. Let's have a look at it now. It really is a good one to go for FTS because it comes after this descent. So get to the back, even drop off the back of the group, approaching the bottom of this dip, and then fly into it with speed, attack this hill, if you can get 2 seconds off the back or a second off the back on that descent and then fly through them, you can bank all that 1 second that you had to use that to your advantage to get the fastest through. You might come through the line 15th, but still win the FTS. But a lot of savvy racers will just be sitting that one out. The third sprint is the Sasquatch sprint. It finishes at 16.4. It starts at 16.1, but it doesn't matter because it's another FAL only, first to the banner. That's all that matters. Doesn't matter when you attack. You might want to do a long range attack. Doesn't matter. Get just FAL points. So let's have a look at that now. Nathan does a great job. There's someone who gets off the front and takes advantage of that. There's a little drop down here, gets quite steep, and it's reasonably prolonged, so it's not a bad place to get away. And then it kicks up here, and just as the official sprint segment starts, it's pretty flat, maybe even goes up a bit. And yeah, these people do stay away. Might be a bit of a heavier chase in ZRL, but Nathan does a great job. You'll have an aero, fire that towards the start of this official segment, and you won't do bad at all. The final sprint is the Woodland Sprint. Now, what I really would encourage you to do is have a go at something. Have a go at one of these sprints, even if you don't normally. It scores down to 20. It's another FAL sprint. This one might be appropriate for the heavier rider, for instance. Some of the others might be the one to go for if you're a lighter rider, if you've got more endurance. Find something. Have a crack at something. You only live once. So let's have a look at Nathan's superb effort on the Woodland Sprint. Now, the finish line comes after a big descent, so get some speed up before that descent, cut through them from the back, really attack that the start of the descent to get as much speed up as possible, cruise through them, maybe come off the power a bit, hit your aero. I would say just as you're coming to the bottom of the sprint, get your head down, really power through it. It doesn't matter, you just keep on going, you don't need to look up. Yeah, well done, Nathan. Awesome sprint. Let's have another look at the course before I do a quick fast-forwardy version of showing you Nathan's whole race. Now, what I can't fit on here is the lead-in. So the lead-in starts in the jungle pens, and it's largely a descent down the predominantly gravel road towards the jungle gate, which comes at 5.6. There's no point in trying to use a gravel bike to get away. The benefits minimum. You've got too long to get to the first gate. That's in my opinion. Someone's going to prove me wrong and do it. If you're maybe 150 kilograms, maybe it's possible. But yeah, it's a fair old length to the official start point, but it'll be pretty fast because it's mainly downhill. and you pick up a power-up at the jungle gates, as I mentioned. So yeah, let's have a look at Nathan's full race. Off he goes, and you really don't want to get gapped just before this big descent. It'll be a very long, lonely ride if you have to do 39.2 kilometers on your own. But Nathan does a very good job here. It's very unlikely anyone's going to get away. Let others do the chasing unless something's really getting away from you. But yeah, otherwise, I would expect a fairly straight start to this race. Across the boardwalks, things might start to kick off, with the first sprint being an FAL sprint. Getting a gap if you can go for it. If no one wants to chase, but I would imagine most people will be fairly eager to chase on this first points race of the season. And so you head off into the start of the, I don't know, is it Main Roads or Southern Coast Roads? I'm not sure what this is. It's fairly newish, and here's this bump that I mentioned, and that precedes the sprint. So yeah, I would say attack the bottom of that bump and keep it going. Yeah, you use your aero about here, and as it flattens off, you should be hitting your highest speeds. It's maybe about 150 meters from where it flattens off. Tough old sprint, but I've seen worse. Now, people might use these sprints as a launch point for a breakaway. It's up to you whether you want to take part in that or ignore it or chase it. But yeah, various teams will use different strategies, quite often focused around the breakaway. Now, the next sprint being an FTS sprint, there's no major advantage for the next sprint in being a breakaway. However, people might use that knowledge to their advantage, thinking, haha, it looks stupid, but if they can get big enough of a gap and then people tire themselves out going for this sprint, that's not an efficient use of energy, so it might not bring back a breakaway. And then the final two sprints, both FAL, if you can clean up there, take I don't know, 2 or 3 high spots, then your team is going to be in very good position. So use that knowledge as you might. It's fairly rolling ground here, not too bad for a breakaway. If you're in it, then you can take advantage of these rollers a bit better than the peloton tends to, so push harder on the ups, take your rest on the descents, probably front end your efforts, or get a good gap early on if you possibly can, and then that'll reduce people's will to chase you. If you look like you're already gonna hoover up the points, then it's a wasted effort to try and chase you. But and also getting out of sight is not a bad plan with all these corners. If the peloton can see you, then they often put on a bit of a sprint or a bit of a chase. People try and jump over, and that accelerates matters. So the twisty nature of this course does help. I don't know why I kept showing the start of that sprint when it doesn't matter at all, because this one is an FAL sprint. I do like how Nathan handles this one. Keeps the power down all the way to the line, picks up another second place. And yeah, vitally important. It is a long race, so you've got to get your rest. So if you're in a group, or if you're in the peloton, sit at the back in these areas where there's little danger. If you want to have someone marking riders off the front, generally you can do that from the back, but they could be a bit less relaxed at the back. But as a team, you want to be getting, the majority of you should be resting at the back for most of this segment. Save your energy for the sprint sections. Here's this. Is this the Woodland Sprint? Yeah, here's the Woodland Sprint. Downhill effort. You need to get speed going into that sprint though, so you don't want to be too far forward, otherwise you miss out on all of the at the start of it. So you want to be coming from the rear hard at before that descent starts. And then we head out towards the desert on these coastal roads. Now, someone in the race has to make the joke about stopping at the crab shack. So it doesn't matter who it is, just make sure that at least one person, as we're going past the crab shack, says something like, anyone want to stop for crab? Something like that. It's essential in every race that passes that point. So we out into the desert and then into the old familiar roads, off to the Alpe du Tempus, which is just a kind of parody name of this little ramp as you come out of the jungle. You might want to launch an attack here, but it's relatively near to the climb. So, is it worth being out of the draft to attack at this point? I personally wouldn't, but you could use it as a team tactic if one person attacks and then gets the others to chase. There is a little drop into the epic climb, and then up you go. The good thing about being in a breakaway on this climb is that the draft pretty much goes to nothing straight away. Very steep, up to 7%, and fairly constant, 7-8%. You're only getting just into double-digit drafts here for Nathan, and yeah, it's pretty steep all the way up. It slightly drops down to 5s here and there, and then back up to 8, 9s around this corner, I think. And it's just a leg snapping, energy sapping, leg snapping climb, and it just goes on and on. It's about say a 3 to 6 minute climb depending on your category, and it doesn't let up until you get to about this point, and then even then it's fairly consistent, 3% all the way across the bridge of Diam Watts. Is it Diam Watts? Bridge of Sapping Watts. And there's not much draft here, so again, a little bit more. People tend to group up on these on the bridge, but there isn't really much draft to be had. If you've got a bit of energy, then I would say save it up for this final bump here, which is a bit of a killer after the epic climb. Gets up to about 6-7%, and it goes on for a few hundred meters, so another point at which you could attack. And then we're into fairly rolling territory. Again, it's fairly sapping though. So, but if you can get a gap on the bridge or on that little ramp afterwards, then you can use these rollers to save energy. Push on the ups and rest on the downs. It's quite possible to get a gap that could last there. And then there's one final significant ascent about here. It's only 2-3%, so very hard to get away, but it does go on for a while. So one last chance for to get away from your gruppetto. If you've got numbers in the team, then you might want to do a kind of 1-2 thing. One of you go for it off the bridge, one of you go for it on that little ramp. But chance for tactics. And then it's down the descent again. Not ideal for getting away, but if you're a heavier rider, it might be possible. It's good for groups, catching smaller groups. If you've got numbers, just put in little bursts each and bring back any riders off the front. And then it comes to the final sort of flattish couple of kilometers at about 37 kilometers, but we're on these broad boards which have higher rolling resistance, which means that the draft doesn't play quite a significant effect. But I would say get some draft, choose your moment, launch your attack, use every drop of energy you've got left in those poor old legs and take it home, just like Nathan. I hope you have a great race, and I wish you all the best in stage 2 of ZRL. Do like and subscribe for recons for all the rest of this ZRL season and indeed year.